Alright then guys, we've created our new file, we have set up a route. Let's structure it a little bit with the controller in between. We don't want to do logic inside the web.php file. So what we could do is to create a new controller. And there are two ways how we could do that. We have a super fast way or the manual way. And to show you the differences, let's start off by doing it the manual way. So in plain PHP, we would go to the controllers directory. So let's open app http controllers. We would right click, create a new file. Let's call it products controller.php. And then we would start off with PHP codes or PHP opening tag. In Laravel, we need to define our namespace. So let's do that. It's app/http/controllers. It's basically the path to, well, this directory. And then we could create our class called products controller, which extends the core controller. And don't get me wrong, this works fine, but did someone timer it? Because it took me way too long. Instead of doing this, we could use PHP Artisan to create a controller for us. To be honest, not only a controller, but a lot more things. So let's hop back to our terminal. I need to cd again inside my desktop, cd into my workspace, and then I need to cd into my first project. And by the way, it might look longer now because I'm explaining it, but when you get used to PHP Artisan, you'll understand that using Artisan is so much more easier. Before I show you how we could create a controller, let's write down PHP Artisan with a flag called !help. Alright. Right here, you can see a couple commands that we could perform in order to list all commands. The one I use is called PHP Artisan list. So let's do that. Let's write down PHP Artisan list. What you've seen on the screen right now is a complete list of all the PHP Artisan commands with examples. So let's scroll up. There are a lot of stuff that we could use. Whenever you want to perform some kind of Artisan command and you don't know the name, use the PHP Artisan list command to list them all down. They're all written down alphabetically by section name. Right here, you have a command to clear your cache. You have your authentication. You have your database. You have your config. You have your events. You have your make. And well, that's actually what we need. So what do we want to do? We want to make a controller. And the description is create a new controller class. Alright, that's good. So let's see what we could make. Let's write down PHP Artisan make controller space, and we're not done yet because we need to define the controller's name. And before we do that, let's hop back to Visual Studio Code. Let's remove our products controller. Well, let's save it first. Let me scroll up. Let's delete it. Move to trash. Let's go back to our iTerm. And let's say we want to create a new controller called products controller. And let's hit enter. As you can see on my screen, we have created a controller successfully. So let's see what the output is in Visual Studio Code. You can see that our products controller has been created. Our namespace has been set and it's using the request, which is also good, and it created a class for us. Isn't that cool? If we remove our controller one more time, so let's delete it. Actually, if you're on a Mac, you could also press Command backspace, which will remove it, and on a Windows it's probably Control backspace. So let's do that. I'll use this way from now on, so if you don't see me right click on a file name, you know how I'm deleting a file. Alright, let's hop back to our terminal. Let's hit the arrow up, but instead of hitting enter, let's add a space and let's write down -help, so a -help flag. Alright, so what are we seeing right now? We have two types of flags. You have a short version and a longer version. First version is, well, basically the shortcut. Whenever you use -i, the output will be exactly the same as -- invocable. And all these options have some meaning. So, if we try to create a controller through Artisan that already exists, it won't let us because it's already there. Let's do that. Let's hit the arrow up without the help. So let's make a controller. Alright. Let's hit the arrow up one more time. Let's hit enter. And you can see that we're getting a message because the controller that we're trying to create already exists. What we could do is to add a new flag, which is the, let me scroll up, -- force. So let's do that. Let's hit arrow up again. Let's hit space. Let's hit -- force, which will basically override the controller that already exists. So let's hit enter. And as you can see, it has overridden the controller that we had, and it has created a new one. And to be honest, there are lots of more options which we will learn during this course. We could even make a model and attach it immediately to our controller with a -m flag, as you could see right here, which is making a model for us. For now, let's keep it simple with the basic commands that we just performed. Like I've said before, we don't want to send back a view inside the web.php. Right here. But instead, we want to return a controller and then send back a view. So first off, in our web.php, we need to add a new use of the right controller that we would like to use. So let's scroll up, and right here at the top, let's say use, and it's basically the path of our products controller. So let's write down app/http/controllers, with the class name. So let's say products controller. What's next? We need to do something with a route to send back a controller. So let's get rid of our route that we have right now and let's create a new one. What we want to do is to create a new route with a GET request. Alright. The first param is basically what the endpoint needs to be. So let's say /products, comma. And now we need to define the class. So to do that, we need to add brackets, followed by the class name. So let's say products controller, ; class. Alright. Then we need to add another comma. And that's the function name that you want to use inside your products controller. Right now, we don't have one. But let's add in single quotes, index. What's going on right here? We're saying that we have an endpoint called /products. We want to pass in a controller, so the products controller, and perform whatever is inside the index function in our products controller class. So we don't have our index function, so let's go to our products controller. Let's get rid of the comments. Let's create a public function index. And in here, let's just return a view. And well, we don't have a view right now, so let's do that first. Inside our views directory, let's create a new folder. Let's call it products. And inside our products, let's create a new file called index.blade.php. Alright, let's write down doc, hit tab, go inside the body, create a h1 called products. Let's save it. Let's go to our products controller. We want to search inside our views directory for a folder called products with a file name of .index. The dot is basically a /, so products/index. Let's save it. And let me actually save my web.php as well. Let's go back to Chrome. And let's change the endpoint to /products. And as you can see, products has been printed out on the screen. Now this is option number 1. There is also a second way that is new since Laravel 8. So let's go back to our web.php file. And right below our route, let's create a new one. Well, let me add a comment first, which says Laravel 8. This is a new way. Alright, so let's add a new comment, Laravel 8. Also new. The second method is basically to use a string syntax. And I actually think that this is pretty much a long way of doing it, but since it's new to Laravel 8, I want to show it to you. So what we could do is to add a new route. So route, : get. Alright, let's go inside the parentheses. Let's add an endpoint of /products. Second argument, so comma, is single quotes. The entire route to the products controller. So once again, it's app /http that's a backslash, controllers, /products controller. But instead of adding a new parameter, we could basically say add, so search for a function or method called index. Alright, let's save it. Well, let's actually comment out the first route. I know it works because it will override it, but just to show you that this works as well. In our /products endpoint, let's refresh it, and the output is still the same. Now, before I wrap up this video, I want to show you how this was done before Laravel 8, because if you Google on route issues, you mostly run into old versions, and it's a little bit different since Laravel 8 came out. So let's go back to our Visual Studio Code, let's uncomment it, and let's create a new route. So before Laravel 8. I just want to show you what the difference is. The beginning of the route is the same. So the route : get. Inside our parentheses, we still need to add an endpoint. So /products. We also need to add a second param, but this is a little bit different. In here, we basically need to add the controller name. So products controller, add, followed by the method name. So in our case, let's write down index again. If we save it and hop back to Google Chrome, refresh it, and we're getting an error message because the old method is not working anymore. Like I've said, I prefer to use the PHP callable syntax, so the first method that we did. Just to give you one more example, let's do it one more time. Let's create a new route to a GET request to /products /about. Then we want to add a comma with the controller class, so bracket products controller, class, and the method is about. We don't have it right now, but we will do that in a second. I'll basically want to show you that in our products controller, we could send back whatever we want. So let's say public function about, and instead of returning a view, let's just return a basic string. So let's say return about us page. Let's save it, save our web.php as well. Let's go back to Google Chrome. Let's change the endpoint to /products /about. And the about us page has been printed out on the screen. Now that we've created our controller and we're able to return a view, I want to pass in some data to the view. There are a couple ways how we could do it, and I want to show them all. So let's start off with the first method, which is the compact function. And what the compact function does is basically creating an array of the variable with its value. So let's go to our controller. Right above our view, let's basically create a new variable called title, and let's set it equal to welcome to my Laravel 8 course. Alright, let's go right inside our view method. Right after products.index, let's add a comma. So we need to add a second param to view. And what I want to pass in is compact, which is a function. And inside the parentheses of our compact function, we need to pass in the name of the variable. So let's say in single quotes, title. So basically this title right here is referring to the title variable that we have. Let's hop to our view. So our index.blades.php in the products folder, right below our h1. Let's create a paragraph. And to add variables from the controller inside the views, we basically need to add a double set of curly braces. The next section is dedicated to views, so we'll go over it in a bit. In here, let's write down our variable name called title. Let's save it. Let's hop back to Google Chrome. Let's change our endpoint to /products. Oh, I made a mistake right here. Let's go back to our web.php. And well, let me get rid of the last two and the products/about as well. And we don't need the comment for now. Save it. Let's go back to Google Chrome. Alright, this is what we need. Welcome to my Laravel 8 controller has been passed in through the controller. It is also possible to send multiple variables back to the view. So let's create a second one called description. And let's set it equal to, well, created by Dari. Let's save it. And right after title, Let's add a comma and let's add description. Well, let me align this actually. All right. Let's go back to our view. Let's create a new paragraph. And let's call this one description. Save it. Hop back to Google Chrome, refresh it, and created by Dari has been printed out. The second way how we could pass in data is with the with method. So let's go back to Visual Studio Code, to our controller. Let me actually comment out the compact method. Oh yeah, and what I just did was selecting every line that I want to comment out, hit Ctrl or Command, /. And let me add one more comment. This is the compact method. And the next method that I want to show you is the with method. So what do we want to do right here? We basically need to return a view again. And inside our parentheses, we need to write down the path. So once again, it's products.index. And right after our parenthesis, our closing parenthesis, we need to create a pointer. So dash greater than. And we want to point to a with function. Then we need to pass in the name that we want to give it as a string. So let's say in single quotes, title, followed by the variable name. So that's separated with a comma, title. So we're passing in title with the with method. Let's save it. Let's hop to Google Chrome. Let's refresh it. Oh yeah, of course. We need to get rid of the description inside our view. Let's do that. Save it. Let's go back to Google Chrome. And welcome to my Laravel 8 course has been printed out. I like the compact method and the with method. But keep in mind that the names of the variable and the placeholder name needs to be identical. The with function is good to use if you want to pass in one variable, so you cannot add the description either. It's also possible to pass in an array with the with method, so right below our description. Let's create a new data array, so let's set it equal to brackets. Go inside our brackets, hit enter, and let's say that product1 is equal to iPhone. We're creating an associative array right here, comma, let's add a second value of product2, and the value is Samsung. Well, let me actually change the name for the iPhone lovers. Alright, let's copy paste our view. Let's comment out the first one because it's the string. Let's change the title to data and the title to data as well. Let's hop to our index.blade.php view because title won't work right here. So let's get rid of it. And just like with any other programming language, we need to loop through an array to print out the values. And to create a for each loop in Laravel, let's write down the @ sign, followed by for each, set of parentheses, and we need to close it off as well. So let's say @ and for each. Alright, so let's go inside the parentheses because we need to do something right here. We know that we have passed in our data right here, so let's do that. Let's say that we want to loop through data as a single item. Inside our for each loop, let's add a paragraph. And inside our paragraph, let's write down curly braces followed by the item. So one single item every single time. Save it. Go back to Google Chrome. Refresh it. And you can see that our data iPhone and Samsung has been printed out on the screen. There's also another option to create a for each loop because we have emit. Let's write down for each. Let's hit tab. And you can see that our for each loop has been created. And this is basically what I'll be doing from now on. Alright. The next way is, well, not the way I prefer, but I'd like to show it to you. Let's go back to our products controller. Let's comment out the view. And let's create a new one. Because right now, we're going to pass it directly in the view. Let's create a new view. So return view to products.index. Let's add a comma. But instead of adding a variable name or the with or compact method, I want to pass in our array right here. So let's add brackets, hit enter. Let's write down the key, which is equal to data. Let's add a value. So let's point it to the variable data that we have right here. Let's save it. Let's go back to the browser. Let's refresh it. And the output is, well, exactly the same.